time to go around the country with NASCAR Coast to Coast. 1 hour of news, opinion, and interviews about NASCAR, K&N Pro Series, NASCAR Wheel and Modified Racing, and more. Now, here are your hosts for NASCAR Coast to Coast, Kyle Rickey and Andy Seuss.
Gragson doubles up in Utah. Lapsevich is one step closer to his first NASCAR championship after winning in St. Eustache. And Measmer picks up his first modified win in the South. Welcome to NASCAR Coast to Coast for Wednesday, September 12th, 2016. In fact, it's the 13th, I believe. Day off there. 14th. 2 days off.
Yep.
Wow. Kyle Rickey. And with me here this week is Andy Seuss. Put the chrome horn to me too last week. And this week you put the chrome horn to Buddy Long. You're taking over.
Well, it's always a pleasure to come here, and I'm long-winded and like to talk racing. I got to figure that's why you keep having me back.
I watched last week with Buddy as I was up in Connecticut trying to get to the short tracks that rained out. You guys did well.
Thank you. Appreciate it. And
natural at this.
I'm getting a little bit more comfortable with it, and you guys threw a wrench into when I was getting more comfortable being on the radio. Now we're live on the internet,
right.
So you can watch. So I have to
look presentable.
Yeah, I have to be a little bit prettier, which I probably didn't do a better job I could have done today. New baby at home, coming straight from work. Yeah, I didn't do my best. I'm not camera ready.
Prettier.
That
made me laugh. Of course, Andy Seuss, two-time and defending NASCAR Wheel and Southern Modified champion. We'll talk about his race this weekend at East Carolina Motor Speedway for the NASCAR Wheel and Southern Modifieds. Also on the show today, Noah Gragson, of course, running in the NASCAR K&N Pro Series East and West. Well, the West Series ran two events this past weekend in Utah at the Utah Motorsports Campus, one on Saturday, one on Sunday. And he was able to hold off Todd Gilliland in both. Not a whole lot of people have been able to do that this year in one race. Never mind two. It looks like Noah's beginning to find his groove here in midseason.
Yeah, that's really impressive. And obviously the buzz around the season was Todd Gilliland, end of last year, beginning of this year. He's not disappointed. He's been incredible all year long. But if you're going to have to win, you got to hold off the best in the series. And he did just that and kind of, stepping up his game and saying, hey, I'm here too.
Be interesting to see where he ends up next year as well. A lot of these young drivers beginning to announce their move to either the East from the West Series or up and into the NASCAR Camping World Truck Series, where we have seen so many of these young drivers go over the last several seasons. So we'll talk to Noah coming up in a little bit about his big weekend in Utah and what it's been like for him running both the East and West races. He hasn't missed an event, except if you look at the East column, because of the combination race in Iowa a couple of months ago, he had to pick which race he was going to earn points in, or which series he would earn points in, and he chose the West.
Yeah, and he was in a great position in both series, but he had to go with where he had a better shot at the title, felt the West Series was that, and obviously he's making the most of it in this past weekend with 2 wins.
Third in the standings in the West and sixth in the East. He'll be on here in a little bit. Bobby Measmer Jr. will also join us here on the show. Picked up a big win this past weekend for the NASCAR Wheel and Southern Modifieds at East Carolina, a race you were a part of.
Yeah, we weren't quite on our game, but those guys were for sure, so it was good to see the first-time winner. Him and Jeremy Gershner actually had a great battle, both guys going for their first win, and it was neat, getting down to the end, 4 guys in the top 4 that were winless this year. So
really?
You knew everybody was hungry, and the rest of us were just, spectators at that point hanging on. That was a tough racetrack, and it proved to be tough racing, and glad to see the 74 bunch come out on top. Good for them.
We'll talk with Bobby Measmer here in a little bit. Held off Danny Bone, Jeremy Gershner, Jason Myers, and Burt Myers, the top 5. Andy, you're finished in the 7th spot. It's not often you're that far down the leaderboard. Kind of bring us through your day.
It was that's actually our worst finish of the year. If we leave it the worst finish of the year, it won't be terrible. Obviously, disheartening, all top 5s up until this point. We were running in the top 5 until a late race restart. And like I said, it was a rough track, and the racing got rough. Got moved up out of the groove and moved on to the back. But that's short track modified racing, and as long as the other people have the same attitude when they get roughed up and moved out to the back, then we'll be fine.
Big topic on the social media outlets in the last couple of days. 12 cars on the list for the NASCAR Whelen Southern Modifieds. It's the smallest that I can remember in the last couple of years. Usually when Bowman Gray season ends, we see some guys come back over onto the tour because the tour schedule is pretty much scheduled around Bowman Gray Stadium. That's kind of the megaplex for modified racings down here in the South. Why is that? And is part of the reason because there are 3 tours down here in the South now, and maybe there's just not enough. Maybe that's just too much for this area.
You know, it's hard to say. I will say a rescheduled race, we had 3 less cars that were on the entry list for last week, and all those cars were going as far as I know. So that makes it tough. When we go out of our comfort zone, which is the, couple hours around the Charlotte area, we see kind of some car fall off. Langley on Labor Day had always been huge. Even Myrtle Beach before that. They always try to go to the coast on Labor Day, which is nice for us. We go to the beach and have a good time. But when you get out of that comfort zone, and it doesn't matter if it's the NASCAR Tour or those other tours, it just makes it tougher. Schedules can be tough. Early mornings, late nights. Do you need hotel rooms? Added expenses. Other things happening on holiday weekends. Of course, this one was supposed to be on Labor Day weekend, got postponed. It's tough to say. One of the things that I hear other competitors complain about is, let's say, the seat. The seat's very expensive, and that's a big difference between weekly Bowman Gray racing and NASCAR Tour racing. But what can you say? We go to places like New Hampshire Motor Speedway. We go to Bristol, Concord Motorsports Park, fast places. I don't think you can put a dollar amount on safety. And if it saves one person's life over millions of dollars,
sure, I
hope it's mine. I hope it saves my life, and safety's a big part of it. I've seen other tracks and series actually step it up. They give you weight breaks for safety. And I think that's huge because, a lot of competitors, they'll complain about the money on the safety, but they'll go and spend it out on a big carburetor or something like that. So luckily, I've always been in a family racing environment. My family seems to like me being around. Safety's been on the forefront. So I don't think, people should make an excuse on safety issues. The introduction of the spec motor. It is going to save money in the long run, but it's a kind of a tough hurdle. So people will go, well, I can't go if I can't afford the spec motor. Well, I think, NASCAR scheduling events at East Carolina Speedway like this past weekend is a perfect example. Jeremy Gerstner and the 15 team brought their backup car with their little motor, and that's a team that says, we can't really afford a big motor. Finishing third. Right. The motor doesn't matter. And I think that's one good thing about the Southern Tour. But people make a lot of excuses because they hear the news on the forefront or things like that. And they got to know that, they have a shot. Anybody that had a good handling race car at East Carolina Speedway had a shot at it. Bobby Measmer had a great handling race car. He was very smart about his strategy, how he approached the race, saved his tires, did a great job. So, that's just an example of the people need to stop making excuses and really enter these races. And, like I said, beyond that, the 3 different series, it's
because we have the past modifieds now. We have the Coma Tour, 2 series that a few years ago were not really around down here in the South. It was pretty much the NASCAR Southern Modified Tour and Bowman Gray. It was pretty much the modified racing that you had down here.
Yeah, obviously that's going to spread everything pretty thin, and I don't really understand the reason for that. One thing I love about NASCAR races, why we haven't entered any races down here besides NASCAR races, is tech.
Right.
I know I'm not out-cheated. And when you get these smaller series together, it's not as professional. We like the professionalism of the NASCAR Tour. That's why we're going to stay there, and not really go elsewhere. And again, these people are making excuses where I don't have to update my seat. The other cars that they're getting, they're getting a handful of competitive cars. The Myers brothers do all the different races and things like that. But there's some people that are pulling out old cars with old motors, with old Kirky seats, with no headrests and supports, and going racing. And God forbid anything ever happened to them. Like I said, NASCAR's on the forefront with the safety.
There you go. So there's a lot of reasons. What it comes down to.
There's a lot of reasons, and I think one thing that we lack on the NASCAR Tour that we had last year was a date at Hickory. Everybody wants to race at Hickory. Easter weekend, the Easter Bunny 150. people want to race at Hickory on Easter weekend. I want to race at Hickory on Easter weekend. I don't think it matters if it was a NASCAR Pass or Smart Tour race. You're going to get a lot of cars. So that first race gave everybody a lot of hope for that series, and then you kind of saw it dwindle down when they tried to travel outside of that 2-hour around Charlotte deal and go to Wake County, not the 8-9 cars with some SKs mixed in there. So I'd love to see everybody get together and, try to work it out. Maybe some promoters and track owners in NASCAR and kind of work together and see what concerns are and hopefully go from there.
And we've seen the same thing in the Northeast a little bit, but there's a lot more modifieds up there, so it's not as noticeable. Years ago, when I first started going to the modified tour races at Thompson and Stafford, you get 50 modifieds. Now you're getting 30, 32, 36. Well, where did they all go? Well, there's other series now, but because there are more cars, it's not as noticeable as it is down here. Again, one of the many reasons that we're apparently seeing a lower car count here in the South.
Yeah, and when I started on the Southern Tour, they were sending cars home, 28 cars at Caraway. And it's tough to see. Obviously, racing's tough everywhere. I don't really have the answer, but hopefully it turns around soon.
That's what we're hoping for. 3 more races left on the Southern Tour. We'll talk more about the Southern Modifieds here in a little bit with Bobby Measmer and my co-host Andy Seuss, who is the 2-time and defending champion of that tour. But when we come back, big winner this past weekend in the NASCAR K&N Pro Series West, 2 times at Utah Motorsports Complex. Noah Gragson will join us here after the break.
NASCAR Coast to Coast will be right back on MRN.com.
Greasy grime on your vehicle could take hours to clean, but not with Super Clean. Right now at O'Reilly Auto Parts, buy 1 bottle of Super Clean all-wheel, multi-purpose, or foaming degreaser and get 1 free. Plus, earn double points during O Rewards Member Appreciation Month. O'Reilly Auto Parts, better prices every day. Limit supply. See store for details.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
The grill is hot and the cooler is cold at America's Tailgate Party, NASCAR USA. Join us each weekend as your host and head chef Rob Tanner serves up the hottest hits and country music, and Steve Post drops by with NASCAR news straight from the sport's top garages and shops. We have 2 hours of country music at the speed of sound, getting you ready for NASCAR racing. Rev up your weekend at America's Tailgate Party, NASCAR USA.
Tuesdays at 1 p.m. Eastern, check out Slingin' Dirt with David and Ashley Strim. They talk with dirt late model, dirt modified, and UMP modified drivers from all over America. Join David and Ashley on MRN.com, the MRN app, and YouTube as they give you the news, results, and their opinions of dirt track racing. Plus interviews with the biggest race winners and newsmakers from New York to California and all dirt tracks in between. Slingin' Dirt Tuesdays at 1 p.m. Eastern on YouTube, the MRN app, and MRN.com.
Back to NASCAR Coast to Coast. Here's Kyle, Rickey, and Andy Seuss.
Welcome back to NASCAR Coast to Coast here on the Motor Racing Network. Kyle, Rickey, Andy Seuss with you talking about NASCAR short track racing for the next hour. And joining us on the guest line, NASCAR K&N Pro Series East and West competitor, and he's won in both this year, including 2 wins this year in the West. Noah Gragson, welcome back to NASCAR Coast to Coast, and congratulations on a big weekend for you out in Utah.
Yeah, thank you guys for having me back. It's good talking to you guys again. It's felt like a while, but it's good being back.
2 races in 1 weekend. It's something that we don't often see in NASCAR touring competition. How difficult was it for maybe not you, but your race team, and having to go through really 2 race weekends over a 2-day period?
No, it's definitely difficult. For myself, my team, on the car, everyone was a little stressed out. They were wore out. The car was wore out. So we just had to prevail from after the first day. I was pretty tired after the first day's race. The road courses, it really takes a lot out of you. So I just had to rehydrate, and the guys worked really hard after the first race, got the car back to I feel like it was better the second day. We gained some knowledge. I gained some knowledge on the racetrack and changed my lineup, my shift points. And although we won on the first day, we came back stronger on the second day, and I felt like we were a lot better.
No, the first thing I think about when I hear about these doubleheaders, like you said, the stress and kind of the longevity of the weekend. Tell everybody like the logistics going into this, what you have to prepare for, things you don't have to think about on a normal weekend that come into play on a doubleheader weekend.
Well, you have to be prepared. You have to have basically double everything. You have to have another race car, more motors, more transmissions, especially on these road courses, because it's so stressful on the car, on the motor, that you don't know what's going to happen. So being prepared is key, and we were pretty prepared this weekend. I didn't run into any bad luck, but my teammate Gragson, he had a few transmission problems, so that was unfortunate for him. Kind of set him back a little bit, but we all worked together as a team with my car and my teammate Grayson's car. We're one team, and we all work together. So that's why I think we were successful this weekend. I'm the only one to run the full NASCAR K&N Pro Series East and West, and so we came right from South Carolina at Greenville Pickens Speedway, and we came from there and ran the K&N East race on Monday. And Holler got to Salt Lake City, I want to say on Friday. So it's hard for us just going across the country back and forth. We don't get very much shop time, less than we would be if we were just running one or the other series. So, but it's a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun this weekend, and it definitely paid off.
And you go back road racing this coming weekend, New Jersey Motorsports Park, the penultimate race of the NASCAR K&N Pro Series East. You a momentum believer, and can that momentum from last weekend, road racing in Utah, make its way over to the East Coast when you go road racing in New Jersey?
Oh, yeah, nothing beats momentum and confidence. I'm a strong believer in that, and once you get a little bit of confidence in you, I feel like I do a lot better. So the guys, they're sticking behind me. That's a lot of confidence for me as well. About 30 minutes to an hour after the race on Sunday, after we won, they were in the garage pulling the motor out, pulling the drivetrain out, really working on the race car after. They don't take a second off of work. They're fully behind me, and I'm very thankful for that, and very thankful for the opportunity to be able to go back east and run all those races. So we got the car ready to go after the race on Sunday, new motor, fresh motor, and we got it all dialed in. So the hauler's heading back there right now, and definitely got a lot of momentum going.
What are some of the differences going to New Jersey over the last road course you're at that you have to kind of think about? Obviously, different series, different drivers you're racing against. Is it more that, or is it the surface itself that you try to prepare for and, mentally go through in your head?
Last year, I feel like it would have been more about learning the other drivers and learning the K&N E Series, but I've been racing with them all year now. We're based out of Washington State, so it might be a little different, but we're part of the E Series, and we've been racing with them every race. So not so much this year. I'd say the biggest thing for me is really learning the racetrack. I'm going to get on there Thursday morning before I get on the plane to go back to New Jersey, and I'm going to do a little iRacing, just try and learn the New Jersey Motorsports Park as best as possible. I've never really seen the place. Don't know what to expect, so that's kind of challenging compared to this past weekend at the road course. My team has been there before. They have a good setup there. My crew chief has won there 5 times now, 3 times previously before the weekend. So that makes it a little bit easier on me going to a new road course that we've never been to as New Jersey Motorsports Park. We don't have any notes on it. We don't know anything. So it makes it a challenge, but we're just going to try our best. And like I said before, we got some confidence in us, and nothing can beat that.
Confidence can go a long way in this sport, no doubt. You had to hold off Todd Gilliland not once but twice, finishing second in both events. He is the series championship leader by 13 over Ryan Partridge. You are 37 back in third. We'll talk more about that in a moment. But how close was it on over the weekend in those 2 races? Was Todd challenging you the whole time, both events?
The first day he was really challenging me. I'd say he probably had the best car out there, and but no disrespect to him, but I was the best driver that day. He was leading. I was running second with probably about 10 laps to go, and he just was making too many mistakes out there. He'd go off the racetrack, overdriving in, and I just had to be perfect, and that's what I was there at the end for the last 10 laps. My spotter, Brandon McReynolds, he was coaching me up pretty much every corner, every lap there at the end. So I'm very thankful for him. I don't know if I could have the self-discipline, but he kept me on track and really kept in my head just telling me to be perfect. And that's really what we were. Kyle would make a mistake, and we'd run away a little bit. Then he'd reel me in and make another mistake. So just being perfect and just staying focused the whole time was the biggest thing for me. And then the second day, I felt like I had the fastest car out there. I was the best driver out there. And like I said, we had a little bit of momentum from going the day before, being in victory lane. So I kind of put my team, I set them back a little bit about halfway through the race. I felt really bad, and I kind of got discouraged because I missed a shift on a restart there about halfway through and trickled back to 12th. And I thought it was over from there. But I just stayed focused. I stayed positive and stayed calm, and I really didn't get affected too much from it. My crew chief kept telling me we're still in this thing, so I battled back hard. I came from the back and caught those guys there about a half straightaway in front of me with about 5 to go, and ran them down. I was about a second faster than them every lap, and that's just all thanks to my crew guys giving me a good race car. I drove the wheels off it. I was wore out. The car was wore out. Everything was wore out, but I just kept on pushing and caught Todd Gillen with about a lap to go and rode behind him and really thought about where I wanted to get him because I was right on his bumper, and I found out that I was going to do it in the final corner and got into him, be on doors a little bit, but it was just hard racing. He was cool with it. I was cool with it. So it was just a lot of fun, and definitely huge to get a 2-in-a-row weekend for me, myself, my team. That's what we really needed going into the future.
Love hearing about all the the team input. Like you said, it's such a team effort. But talking about driver, coach, spotter, crew chief pumping you up, the effort over the weekend. Really like to hear that. Heading into the E-Series this weekend, is there a little bit less pressure when you go to the E-Series race? Since back in Iowa, you did have to declare which championship you were going after and go for points for the West Series. So does this help to kind of keep the pressure off, go have fun, really compete for wins?
Yeah, I think on both sides. We've had some part malfunctions early in the year and kind of had some bad finishes on the resume earlier this year, and that set us back in the points. So we're really just trying to compete for wins. I don't know if we could get back into the championship point contention because there's only a few races left. So wins are everything in a sport. Obviously, a championship is the biggest thing, but wins do talk, and that's really what we're going for. No one remembers second, and I'm not gonna rough anyone up too hard. But if we have to beat doors a little bit, I can pass them by just nudging them, and that's what I'm gonna do. So I really, really want to win a couple more this year, and I think we have a good opportunity of doing that. And that's all thanks to my crew guys and my team for working their tails off every day, week in and week out. Without them, I wouldn't be here.
New Jersey this weekend for the East, and then in a couple of weeks you go back west to Meridian Speedway in Idaho. The site of a win for you last year. Got to be excited about getting back to that short track here in a couple of weeks' time.
Oh, yeah. So we got New Jersey this weekend coming up, and then we go to Meridian, Idaho the following weekend, and then I think we go to Dover the weekend after that. So it's been back-to-back races. It's a constant grind, and it's definitely been difficult. I'm ready to get back to Meridian. I was just watching on Facebook. They have these memory deals from 1 or 2 years ago, and there's a thing I shared last year of a video after I won. I was driving around the racetrack, pumping up the crowd, and man, if you just listen to that thing, the crowd is going nuts. So it's always fun going up to Meridian. I love going up to that racetrack. It's a fun little tight quarter-mile racetrack, kind of like the Bowman Gray of the West Coast. But surprisingly, it's really racy. You can race too wide. They coaxer up the outside groove, so it's got some grip up there. And the fans up there, man, they're unbelievable. That's why I love going up to that racetrack.
Yeah, those quarter-mile bull rings sure are exciting, especially like you said, when you can get to a place where you can race side by side. Bowman Gray a little bit tough, but as we saw, the Whelen Modified Tour up north return to Seekonk last week. Yep. Same thing, a really good two-groove racetrack. I really like that you can pass somebody, but it takes multiple laps. You know, both grooves so strong. Looking forward to the West Series return to a nice quarter-mile bull ring.
Before we let you go, Noah, want to ask you about next year, because it's that time of the year where drivers begin to look for their plans for the following season. Anything in the works for 2017?
We don't have anything set in stone right now. Just talking to a couple of different teams. Really looking to move up to the NASCAR Camping World Truck Series, but just waiting for the right opportunity. Being with the right team, you really only have one shot at it. So if we have to wait a year and go run a couple races in ARCA, go run a couple K&N races and truck races, that's what we'll do. So just ultimately really thankful for the opportunity to be in the hunt to look for teams to race for next year in the Camping World Truck Series. But nothing set in stone. That'd be an awesome opportunity and really a dream come true. I've been dreaming over that. So I'm not going to get too worked up over saying I'm going to run it because no one really knows. Time will tell. So I'm just really happy that we're in the hunt for that, and just ultimately want to get the most experience as I can, whether I do race full Camping World Truck Series next year or I race one or two Camping World Truck Series races next year. Just really thankful for the opportunities and going to make the best of it.
And certainly making the best of it on both the East and the West Coast this year in the NASCAR K&N Pro Series. Noah Gragson joins us. Congratulations again on the two big wins over the weekend, and best of luck to you this weekend in New Jersey.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate it. You guys have a great day.
Noah Gragson joining us here on NASCAR Coast to Coast. Let's see, New Jersey this weekend, Idaho next weekend, back to Dover, and then Roseville, California. That's his next 4 weeks. Imagine that.
Dream come true right there. You can travel and coast to coast, competing for wins.
And racking up those airline miles, no doubt, for Noah Gragson. So he'll join us, or Noah Gragson, thanking him for joining us. Coming up, we're going to talk modified racing. Bobby Measmer Jr. going to join us here in a little bit, a race in which you were in with him just a couple of days ago.
Yeah, and they did a great job coming out with their first career win on the tour, so good for them.
And he'll join us after the break here on NASCAR Coast to Coast.
NASCAR Coast to Coast will be right back on MRN.com.
Whatever you drive, wherever you go, Hercules Tires will get you there, whether you're running on dirt or running a job. Our dependable, high-quality tires are the perfect fit for your needs. For unmatched value, selection, and warranty with industry-leading road hazard protection, there's only one choice: Hercules Tires. To learn more, visit HerculesTire.com or call 800-677-9535. Hercules Tires, ride on our strength.
From work life to nightlife, from home to the road, your day can take you anywhere. These fast-paced times call for Wrangler Advanced Comfort jeans. Advanced Comfort is designed to keep up with you, no matter where you go or what you're doing. They're made with 20% stronger denim and 4-way flex technology that moves with you. Wrangler Advanced Comfort. Go anywhere, look great, and be comfortable. Wrangler Advanced Comfort jeans. Try on a pair today.
MRN's Winged Nation, presented by Sage Fruit on MAV TV every Saturday at 9:30 a.m. and again at 12:30 p.m. Steve Post and Ashley Strimmy give you a full half hour of sprint car news and interviews with the biggest names from the world of outlaws, ASCS, All-Star Circuit of Champions, Pennsylvania, Knoxville, the West Coast, and all dirt tracks in between. MRN's Winged Nation on MAV TV, presented by Sage Fruit, Saturdays at 9:30 a.m. and 12:30 p.m. Eastern on MAV TV.
Back to NASCAR Coast to Coast. Here's Kyle Rickey and Andy Sykes.
From the fendered cars with Noah Gragson to the open-wheel cars. Now with Bobby Measmer Jr., who joins us on the guest line, picked up the big win, the Visit Martin County 150 at the East Carolina Motor Speedway for the NASCAR Whelen Southern Modified this past weekend in Robertsonville, North Carolina. He joins us on the guest line now. Bobby, welcome to NASCAR Coast to Coast, and congratulations on the win this past weekend down here in the South.
Yeah, thanks for having me, and thanks for the congratulations. It's definitely a big deal for me and my guys. Little team we got going on, and finally get that first NASCAR Tour win under our belt.
Yeah, long time coming for you. 32 series starts. That's a couple of years worth of racing, and you've been close on a number of occasions. Kind of bring us through your night from your seat.
Well, I mean, we unloaded there for the practice and was fairly decent, we thought, on older tires, and kind of dialed ourselves out and went right back to where we had unloaded and qualified sixth. And I kind of felt like we had a fourth or fifth place car at best, and basically played the tire management game and rode along there to about lap 60 or 70 or so, and we went ahead and made an early pit stop to swap left side tires and get that out of the way, because we were allowed to do that. And everybody else came in and pitted around lap 80, which we came down at the same time and just took our right rear at that point and put us in front of the majority of the field. And I think I was third at that point, and just saved until 20 to go. And that's when I realized I had a pretty decent car, and made the pass for the lead there over Jimmy Gershner, and went on to hold off everybody for two restarts here at the end and get our first win.
Yeah, Bobby, impressive race for you. Obviously, that's a place, like you had mentioned, rough on tires. So anytime you can win at a place like that, kind of more of an accomplishment, I think, is in self-discipline and everything else. You did a great job with that, your team with a great strategy. Describe that place for people listening, because East Carolina Speedway just came to the NASCAR banner last year. First time for modifieds, tour-type modifieds ever there. What could you compare that racetrack to?
You know, as far as a big track scale, as far as a Sprint Cup deal, I would say you go back to like a Rockingham Speedway that they used to run years ago, or Darlington that they still continue to run. It just, 10 laps, you're already starting to hang on, and if you was to go full out, and we weren't really able to do that till later on into the race, and you had to save your equipment, save your tires, but it's definitely a cheese grater of a place for tires.
It has been a very consistent season for you. Third in the championship standings, 30 points behind Burt for the championship lead, 16 behind Andy in the second spot. Got a couple of races left, 3 to go on the tour. Is that enough time, do you think, to get up there and maybe contend for the championship?
I don't think so. I mean, really, our ultimate goal at the beginning of the year was to win us a tour race, and if we could finish in the top 3 in points, that'd be awesome. And we've worked our way now into third place, and not comfortably by no means. We're only 1 point ahead of Georgie there, but we kind of hit a little stride here. Hopefully, we can carry this momentum on through the last 3 races and just see where it ends up. I mean, for our third, is going to be our third full season on the tour. I'd say we've accomplished quite a bit in a short amount of time. I mean, everybody we raced against, whether it be car owners or drivers, have been running the modifieds for, years and years and years, a lot longer than 3 years. I know that, but we got a big notebook to race against, and I'd say it'd be like winning a championship if we finished third in the points. But I'd like to go back and have a couple races back early in the year, but you can't look back at some of the bad races that we did have, and just continue to build and go forward.
Yeah, like you said, very impressive to be sitting third in points. Didn't have the beginning of the season you wanted. Some tough luck in practice at South Boston, of all things, kind of put you behind. So definitely an awesome job digging out of the hole to get up on the podium for points.
Yeah, and that's the one race I'd like to have back. If I'd known I'd known we'd hit a stride like we've hit it here in the second half of the season, I might have done a little more work to try and run the whole race instead of just start park. But that's just part of being a little team that we have basically one good of everything, and we weren't prepared for anything like that in practice to happen. Luckily, some people were able to pitch in and help us get out there at least start and get those points. But it'd be nice to have that back.
Tour is going back to South Boston this weekend, and unfortunately for you, Bobby, it's a track that has not been kind to you. 3 starts there, still looking for your first top 10. What has kind of been the hiccups there for you these last 2 seasons at South Boston Speedway?
Actually, I have to correct you on the little stat there. This race last year, I got my first career pole.
That's right.
So I finished third to both Andy and Georgie, and that was sort of where we kind of started our momentum toward the end of last year. Now, it hasn't been nice in the big picture. We did get caught up in a wreck there in practice like we just spoke earlier this year. And then last year, the first race there, we got caught up in a wreck, late wreck. But I really enjoy the place. I look forward to hopefully racing with Andy and, if Georgie's up front as well, again, hopefully be able to battle out for a win. We now that we got this first one under our belt, hopefully the rest will come easier. But I know it's no slouch at competition, so that's why it's basically taking this long. So we'll just keep digging, and I look forward to this weekend, actually.
Now, like you said, pretty neat deal. First win on the NASCAR Modified Tour for a small team. But I'm going to ask you about a good friend of mine, too. What did it mean to win your team you and Kevin Hughes built together? Your owner, great guy, came from the same neck of the woods as I did. Really happy for him. But you guys have really stuck together, tried and true the whole time. That must have been a pretty neat phone call right after the race. I know he couldn't be there.
Oh, yeah. He's kind of like my second father. He came along in my late model days, and he basically I met Kevin through my dad. They raced against one another and street stock. He had a street stock car and stuff, and so he kind of watched me grow up. And then once I started racing, he kind of brought me under his wing, and we this modified deal, started out a little rough, but he stuck by me, and he knew eventually we would figure it out. It's a big deal. I mean, Kevin's well known in the NASCAR industry, with race electronics, and he had a lot of phone calls himself, and he was overexcited about he finally getting that first one, and I know it's a big deal for him as well as me, and hopefully we can accomplish our goal, which was he put the goal out there in front of me to finish top 3 in points this year and try and beat every finish that we have, beat every average finishes last year, and so far this year we have at least tied or bettered last season, so definitely a good deal.
Yeah, a career year for you, no doubt, with still 3 races to go. I found it interesting in researching for the show, you were at one point interested in tractor pulling and was involved in tractor pulling at one point. How deep into that form of motorsports did you get?
I had an uncle. He pulled. He actually ended up on the national circuit, NTPA national circuit, but he was doing the regional pulls here in North Carolina, South Carolina, and Virginia. I traveled with him some. And that was before I actually was, I guess, able enough to convince my mom to let me get a race car. So me and my dad, for my high school project, we built a 4-wheel drive pulling truck, and I was 16 years old, and we did that as a high school project, and I pulled the truck for 2 years, and as soon as I turned 18, I worked at a local scrapyard, and I drove my first race car home from the scrapyard, and the rest is history as far as the racing deal goes. The truck went by the wayside. It didn't have enough adrenaline. It didn't last long enough. It kind of like me if I was to try and go drag racing. It's just, a few seconds down a quarter-mile track or, and basically a few seconds down a 300-foot track. It wasn't enough for me.
Now that you mentioned the tractor pull and obviously big horsepower through mud, I know how you pedaled that race car on the tough surface this past week, and that was the trick right there.
Yeah. Could have had a little bit to do with it.
I found that interesting because my first ever motorsports event was a tractor pull back in the mid-1980s, and there were monster trucks there, which I think was the main attraction for me as a kid, but tractor pulling always interested me growing up. Bobby Measmer Jr. joining us here on the show. Congratulations again on the win this past weekend at East County, and look forward to seeing you, believe it or not, next month at the season finale here at the Charlotte Motor Speedway.
Yep. Yeah, we'll be here before we know it, and hopefully we can get us another win if things go our way before then and finish the year off strong and just keep digging.
Currently third in points right now, and a couple of races between now and then, including this weekend at South Boston. Bobby, again, thanks for joining us, and we'll see you in a couple of weeks.
All right, thanks for having me, and we'll see you Saturday there, Andy.
Yes, sir. I'll see you there.
Bobby Measmer Jr. joining us here on the guest line. Always good to see one of the smaller teams, maybe not the most financed teams, be able to break out with a win.
Absolutely, and talking to Bobby about his progression through motorsports, pretty neat there, talking about working in a scrap yard, driving your first race car home, kind of a throwback to the old days.
Absolutely. Coming up here on the show, talking about throwing it back to the olden days, a lot of drivers back in the old days ran 100 races a year, and there are a few that still do. One of the drivers that likes to race as many events as he can and is contending for a national championship in Division I for the NASCAR Whelen All-American Series is Ty Majeski, and he's going to join us after the break.
NASCAR Coast to Coast will be right back on MRN.com.
O'Reilly.
It's O-Rewards Member Appreciation Month at O'Reilly Auto Parts. Stop in today and check out store-wide savings plus earn double points on over 225 items. It's our way of saying thank you. If you're not already a member, sign up today during O-Rewards Member Appreciation Month. It's fast, easy, and free. O'Reilly Auto Parts. Better parts, better prices every day.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
Stay up to date with the latest news from the NASCAR Garage weekdays on NASCAR Today, midday.
We can enhance the fans' experience, and I think that's what we really need to zero in on and provide.
Hear from the drivers and teams as they chase the 2016 championship trophy.
Change is good in our sport. It re-energizes people, makes everybody, step up to the plate, so to speak.
NASCAR Today, midday, weekdays on the Motor Racing Network, your source for NASCAR news.
From work life to nightlife, from home to the road, your day can take you anywhere. These fast-paced times call for Wrangler Advanced Comfort jeans. Advanced Comfort is designed to keep up with you, no matter where you go or what you're doing. They're made with 20% stronger denim and 4-way flex technology that moves with you. Wrangler Advanced Comfort. Go anywhere, look great, and be comfortable. Wrangler Advanced Comfort jeans. Try on a pair today.
Back to NASCAR Coast to Coast. Here's Kyle Rickey and Andy Sykes.
Into the final month of the NASCAR Whelen All-American Series national standings, and Matt Bowling is the championship leader by 13 now over Keith Rocco. Bowling picked up a couple of wins this weekend. East Carolina Motor Speedway, they were with the Modifieds, and then came back the next day to win at Southern National Speedway, or Southern National Motorsports Park here in Kenly, North Carolina. Rocco finished second at the Stafford Motor Speedway on Friday night, third at the Waterford, so was unable to gain ground. In fact, lost 10 points over the weekend. And Ty Majeski jumped up there about a month ago, outside of the top 10 into third, 17 points back, and joins us on the guest line now. Ty, it's been fun to watch you this season. It's been a big year for you. Announced to the NASCAR Next class for this season and have run a boatload of races, whether they be NASCAR sanctioned or not. Got to be excited about being at least a player in this Division I national championship for this season.
Yeah, for sure. We've definitely had a dream season with everything going on, signing the driver development deal with Roush, and as you mentioned, NASCAR Next, and winning big super late model races, and then in the last month or so trying to chase his national title. we just didn't think we had a chance at it early on in the year. We had a really good start at New Smyrna. We had 3 wins in 3 seconds to start off the year, and we just didn't think we were going to have the car count at our local racetrack in La Crosse, and we knew that we wouldn't be able to get the number of starts that those guys do down there. So we'd have to, that means we'd have to be about perfect in every one of our starts, and we got towards the end of La Crosse season, and we were at that point where we had only 1 loss up to that point, and we're like, man, we could do this. So we started chasing it about the beginning of August, and we tried to chase a little bit more. We started doing a little bit more traveling and to try and get more starts. But we've been doing the best we can. We've had to take our La Crosse car to different racetracks, and those racetracks have a little bit different rules package. So we've been down on power and a little bit down on race car technology itself, but we've been doing all right with it. We got a couple wins, or a couple good finishes out at Madison and winning the second, and we've been doing a little bit of traveling as well with the super late model to get some more starts, but overall it's been going pretty good.
Yeah, you mentioned, having less starts, the capability, sorry about that, than the guys in the Northeast or the South here running late model stocks, but batting over 500, 13 wins and 24 starts, very impressive. The tracks up in the Northeast are kind of highlighted, and because they get good car counts and the competition there. So Keith Rocco dominating up there is always at the top of the list. And then, in the past years, you've had the Lee Pulliams and now Matt Bowling in the South here with the late model stocks. What are the tracks and what are the races like up where you're from? They don't get as much attention in the national highlights, but you're making it work. Maybe it's because they don't have as many races you can go to, but you're definitely making it work. So what is it like chasing national points up in the north there?
Well, the biggest thing is we don't have a lot of NASCAR sanctioned tracks. So I only have 3 or 4 NASCAR tracks really within, reasonable distance that I can go to and race. And I think 2 or 3 of them are on Saturday nights, and one of them's on Friday nights. So, I don't have many options. I have to pick somewhere to go on Saturday and hope they get the car count. They have about 15 to 20 cars, at any one of those tracks on any given night. So, and that's what really costed us. I feel like, I have a little bit better stats than Rocco and Bowling. I have all first and seconds. But the difference is I have wins with 14 cars, 15 cars, 16 cars, and ultimately that's what's really costing us right now as we get down to these final days here in the national title. But and the other thing is up here is everywhere you go, we invert off of qualifying, and we typically qualify pretty good, and we get inverted outside the top 10 and 25, 30 lap races. So that makes it a little bit tough. But if you can get it done, I'm able to get maybe some bonus points up here if I win and start 10th or worse than maybe what those guys can down there. So there's some pros and cons to it, but overall I think it might be just a little bit more difficult just because of I don't have as many options to go race on any given weekend.
And you mentioned car count. They're everything. 18, I believe, is a full field, and you get bonus points for winning an event that has a full field of cars, and you mentioned you haven't got that. You have scored points, though, at 5 racetracks: Elko, Madison, Illinois, Madison International, New Smyrna at the beginning of the year, La Crosse Fairgrounds, and Rockford. Are there any NASCAR events left on the calendar for you this year? I know you're busy with ARCA. You're in competition, in fact, tomorrow night at Chicagoland Speedway. Any other NASCAR events in which you can score points before the season wraps up later this month?
Yeah, we're going to try and go to the NASCAR season ends on Sunday, the 18th. So we're going to go up to Elko on the 17th this Saturday, and because we have an ARCA Midwest Tour race, which is a super late model race there on the 24th. So it'll be a decent tune-up for us when we go there the following week for points.
Talking about your 24 starts on the the national standings, but you're also talking about your ARCA race tomorrow night at Chicago, ARCA Midwest Series. We know you're busier than 24 races a year. What else is keeping you busy throughout the race season?
Well, working at the shop full time. I mean, Toby Noodleman, my crew chief, works full time, and I'm down there as much as possible. Trying to maintain 5 race cars. So it's definitely a full time job, and I've been able to have the privilege to go down at Roush-Fenway a handful of times this year and do some pit stop practice. and do some practicing on their big simulators down there, and trying to better myself and get myself more experience at maybe some of the things like pit stop practice and maybe some of the mile-and-a-half racetracks, and get experience doing some of those things that I wouldn't otherwise be able to do. So it's definitely been a fun-filled summer, a summer filled with racing, that's for sure. I think we have we're going to end up with over 60 starts this year, and I think we're at about 44 now with 22 wins. So it's definitely been a great season.
Mentioned at the top of the interview, you were named to the NASCAR Next Class for this year, and then you mentioned Roush development driver for this season as they announced you as part of that program back in the spring. What does that mean? And ultimately, what do you hope to take away from that program? Does being you signed by them allow you to maybe get some starts in NASCAR's National Series down the road?
Well, it definitely gets me in the funnel. Before I was just running super late model stuff, and I think people knew about me, but I wasn't necessarily in the funnel. And I think signing that driver development deal, first of all, got me a lot of exposure, and it gives me a lot of privileges that I wouldn't otherwise have. Like I said, I'm doing a lot of pit stop practice, getting used to all that kind of stuff. I mean, that's all experience that when I do run in the National Series, I'm going to be better. I'm going to be more prepared, and definitely more prepared for all the challenges that I'm going to have. I mean, obviously this isn't easy. People, otherwise everybody would do it. So I think I'm, taking out of that Roush program, it gets me in the funnel, gets me more experience, and I believe something's going to come out of it. We've been, continuing to win on the super late model level, and it makes me more marketable when you're out there winning races, and they're able to find sponsors and partners for me easier. And I really think we have a bright future.
Signing with Roush Racing is just so huge, legendary name in the sport. You're going from short track super late model racing. You mentioned tomorrow, Chicagoland Speedway. What are some of the things that you have to focus on as a driver to get ready for a big track? Obviously you've mastered super late model short track racing. What are some of the things you've been working on to prep for the next step?
Well, I think the biggest thing is getting used to the aerodynamic stuff. I mean, now you get up right behind a guy on a short track and you don't see any aerodynamic effects. And you see on TV all the time, guys talk about getting aero tight, and now you got to deal with side drafting. And there's just so many different aspects to look at. Now I have to almost create a whole new set of instincts for myself just because it's just a different type of racing. It definitely has a different set of challenges than maybe what short track racing does, but I believe I've been able to go on iRacing and do some mile-and-a-half racing on there, and I've been able to gain some experience doing it that way. So I'm pretty optimistic, and hopefully we'll have a good run tomorrow night at Chicagoland.
That's the second driver on the show today that's mentioned iRacing and how they prepare for going to racetracks that they've never been to before. So
something I got to get more involved in, apparently.
I guess. They threw me off years ago, so apparently I can
see that.
I drove a little too rough for their liking. Ty, best of luck to you this weekend. In fact, I'll see you tomorrow night at Chicagoland Speedway for the ARCA race. Going to be a great way to kick off the weekend in Chicago tomorrow evening.
All right, thanks, guys. Appreciate you guys having me.
NASCAR next driver and national championship contender Ty Majeski joining us here on the guest line. We'll have more from a lot of the other championships going on in NASCAR right now and some racetracks closing up shop this past weekend. We'll tell you who their champions are after the break.
NASCAR Coast to Coast will be right back on MRN.com.
Hi, this is John, the pace car driver. Safety is very important to me and my family, so I keep informed about recalls. There are drivers out there that don't know that their very own car could be under a recall, and that's dangerous. So to protect you and your family, go to safercar.gov/check for recalls and enter your vehicle identification number. And if it is, call your local dealership. They'll fix it for free. To learn about other Drive for Safety messages, visit safercar.gov. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration.
When the smoke settles, the entertainment never stops.
You know, it's everybody just trying to say my last name. They just don't finish it.
On race weekends, your favorite NASCAR personality is an everyday superhero.
And here comes Dale Earnhardt Jr.
But when they leave the racetrack, they're just like everyone else.
For the most part, our hearts were wagon makers.
I'm Susie Armstrong. Join me on a daily journey as we discuss the hot topics and engaging personalities of NASCAR Nation. Ned Jarrett's World of Racing, weekdays on the Motor Racing Network.
Back to NASCAR Coast to Coast. Here's Kyle Rickey and Andy Seiss.
Couple of tracks wrapped up their 2016 season this past weekend. Nick Joanidas won the season finale for the late models at Irwindale Speedway. We had him on the show a couple of weeks ago. Trevor Huddleston finished in third, which is good enough to win the track title. Just a couple of nights remain as far as EVA Destructions are concerned. And again, that track, the future unknown. We were just talking during the break about tracks that hopefully aren't closing up shop. Irwindale Speedway's property was sold, but they're not sure when they're going to redevelop it, if they're going to redevelop it. So hopefully we get another season or two out of Irwindale Speedway or more.
Yeah, great facility for anybody that's ever been there or watched it. They used to have the Toyota All-Star Showdown. Was a great event in the middle of winter. You stopped what you were doing because, races is limited during the winter. Their future has been in question multiple times, and glad to see it hanging on so far. Hopefully it continues to do so.
Nick told us a couple of weeks ago that he believes they'll be racing there next year, and I believe him, and I hope he's right. One track closing up after this past weekend, and sadly their season finale was rained out. Columbus Motor Speedway in Ohio was rained out, will not be rescheduled due to a number of reasons. Kyle Purvis, who we hope to get on the show next week, won the track's late model championship over Donnie Hill by just a couple of points. Shane Shirk won the modified title, and again, that track going away after some 71 years of operation. Devil's Bowl Speedway in Vermont, they held their Vermont 200 weekend this past week. Vince Quinville picked up the Sportsman Modified feature, while Bobby Thurian won the late model feature. The win by Quinville gave him his second straight track title at Devil's Bowl Speedway. And Motor Mile wrapped up their season in Virginia. Lee Pulliam held off Philip Morris to pick up the late model win. The win clinched Pulliam's fourth consecutive track championship and fifth career title at Motor Mile Speedway. So a busy weekend as far as some tracks wrapping up. 12 more will wrap up this coming weekend. So
getting to be that time of year.
Those tracks are, for those keeping track at home, as I run out of pages in my notes, New Smyrna Speedway, Rockford Speedway, Adams County Speedway, Elko Speedway, Lebanon I-44, Monadnock Speedway up in New Hampshire, Riverhead Raceway in New York, East Carolina Motor Speedway, Hickory Speedway, Southern National, Greenville Pickens, and South Boston. All will wrap up their points-paying season. Some of those tracks have some bigger shows in October and November as we get toward the holidays, but as far as track points are concerned, that's it this coming weekend. NASCAR Pinty Series up in Canada, they have one season remaining, and it's been Caden Lapcevich that's been making all the headlines this season. He won the Lucas Oil 250 this past weekend at the Autodrome St. Eustache. He picked up the win over DJ Kennington, Mark Dilley, Adam Martin, and Alex Tagliani, the top five. He has the championship point lead now by 41 points. I don't think anybody is able to catch him with one event to go. Andrew Ranger in that second spot. Kevin Lacroix, who was on the show last week, is currently third in points, 51 back. Then Alex Tagliani and LP Dumoulin. Caden Lapcevich, if he does clinch the championship this weekend, and we believe he will at the Kawartha Speedway, will be in studio next week here on NASCAR Coast to Coast. So a second-generation driver, and looks like a star of the future north of the border.
For sure, especially in the NASCAR Pinty Series, typically very close point finishes. So for a rookie to come on and dominate like that, very impressive.
Usually it comes down to one or two positions at Kawartha Speedway or wherever the season finale is held, and that is not the case this year. Caden Lapcevich is just taking them to the woodshed this season. The NASCAR Wheel and Modify Tour ran this past weekend up at the Seekonk Speedway in Massachusetts. Timmy Solomito picked up the win, I believe his third of the season, over Justin Bonsignore. You say fourth? Been a big year for that team.
Very impressive.
4 wins, challenging for the championship. Justin Bonsignore finished second, Doug Coby third, so he didn't gain a whole lot of points. Matt Hirschman and Bobby Santos, the top 4. 20 points separate Doug Coby from Justin Bonsignor with 3 races to go, including next week at the New Hampshire Motor Speedway. Andy, for the second week in a row, thanks for joining us here on NASCAR Coast to Coast.
Thanks for having me. I'm upset to see it end, and I'll have to make some news to be on the show now.
That's right. Get a race win. That'll no doubt do it. I want to thank Noah Gragson, Bobby Measmer, and Ty Majeski for joining us on the show. For Andy Seiss, Craig Moore, and Robbie Mays, we'll see you back here next week.
This has been NASCAR Coast to Coast with MRN short track experts Kyle Rickey and Buddy Long. Tune in next Wednesday at noon at MRN.com for more talk from NASCAR home tracks and touring series. NASCAR Coast to Coast is also available on demand in the MRN.com Media Center or download from iTunes or Stitcher. NASCAR Coast to Coast is a production of the Motor Racing Network. All rights reserved.